Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 93. The 44-man England training squad has been announced for the recent camp, and we've got a few things we'd like to discuss. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. Another bit of a long break between episodes. Apologies, it's been a bit of a busy summer. There's not been a huge amount to talk about, so we don't want to keep repeating ourselves. So we thought we'd leave another gap. Keep you wanting more. I'm joined, of course, by Dan. Hi, mate.
Hi, mate. Yeah, we're playing our sort of amateur psychology games on everyone.
Playing hard to get, mate. Playing hard to get.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem to be working with the ladies, so we might as well try it on the pod, hey?
It doesn't seem to be working with the pod either. We've had no new reviews, people. What's going on? We were on a bit of a roll. We were getting all these amazing 5-star reviews, and now it's all silent.
Well, actually, we have. We got one from. I got a Facebook message.
Okay, nice.
From someone, which I'll read out. But before I do that, first I want to ask, how was the cricket?
It was good. It was fun. I mean, we picked a pretty good day for it. We were expecting not to see very much because the forecast said rain all day. In the end, we saw England destroy the Indians.
They really took them apart, didn't they?
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
But we're not here to talk cricket, are we? So
no, we're not Eddie Jones.
let's crack on. Let me read this review because actually it's a good one. It's from a guy called Chris Woods.
Yeah.
But bear with me one sec. I'm just going to pull it up. So let me just find her.
This is the way we roll, people. This is the way we roll. Organised, clinical, professional. I'll just keep everyone entertained.
I actually can't, for some reason I had it up a second ago. I can't find it, but I know pretty much what it said. So it's a guy called Chris Woods. And Chris, thanks very much for getting in touch. And he was basically a really nice review, and we really appreciate that, Chris. Thanks a lot. But his question was, it was around sort of the number 10 spots, and we're saying that we've mentioned a lot about them, but following the Under-20 World Cup, we haven't mentioned the likes of Marcus Smith or perhaps any of the other youngster 10s. And what are our thoughts on sort of Marcus Smith as a potential sort of England 10 or World Cup 10? Now, so this is my thought. I'll say mine, then you jump in. So Marcus Smith, I think, is an absolutely brilliant talent, and he's got a lot going for him. The reason I haven't really mentioned him is I just, at the moment, don't think he's in the running for a World Cup 10 spot.
I agree. I think he is the future of the England 10 shirt, particularly if things go the way that we want them to go, which is with Danny Cipriani as England's starting 10, because Danny Cipriani is no spring chicken. Yeah,
exactly. Danny Cipriani. But I think the thing is, when we're chatting 10, we are very much sort of focusing upon, the World Cup and who's going to be the holder of the jersey for that. And at the moment, I can't see Eddie going beyond George Ford, Danny Cipriani, or perhaps Owen Farrell.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a key position, and whilst he has the skills, and he will be a world-class fly half, I genuinely believe that. I just think that lack of experience, and there'll be people saying, yeah, but how does he get experience unless you play him? And that's a fair point. But this is not the time to effectively blood new players unless you have to. And I think experience trumps sort of the ability to have these moments of genius, which, in fairness, is kind of what Danny Cipriani always was. It was, do you select this young gun? And okay, he was a bit cocky and people didn't necessarily like him, where Marcus Smith is a little bit different. But, he was that guy, that raw talent that could change your game, but in either direction, depending on how things panned out. But he lacked the experience and the kind of the smart head on his shoulders. I think Marcus Smith, to his credit, is a little bit further along than Danny Cipriani was. But I think that added experience that you get with a Cipriani or a Ford or a Farrell, if that's the way you're going, trumps the kind of the raw skill that you get from Marcus Smith right now. So I think it's going to be a case of post World Cup, like always seems to be the case. There'll be a number of retirements, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Cipriani's one of them. We'll see what happens, and I think at that point, Marcus Smith becomes a key part of the England setup. Looking forward to 2023.
That'll be the one.
Quick bit of maths there. +4.
Yeah,
lucky I've got my calculator in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah, good for you, mate. Good for you. But yeah, no, it's a fair point. Though it's a good question because he's like Marcus Smith. We got to give him his credit. He held his own in the Premiership last year. I mean, make no mistakes about it. He had some great games and he wasn't out of place. And I think if you gave him an England top, I think he could do a job. And I don't think he'd be completely out of his depth. I just don't think.
But is he going to lead the team?
Exactly. I don't think he'd be able to marshal the team like Danny Cipriani could. Like, in fairness, a George Ford could do to a greater extent.
I think the thing with George Ford is, you still look at him from the outside and he looks like a kid, but he's been there a long time now, so he's kind of earned the respect of the team. And I think that's something that we don't have time to give Marcus Smith between now and the World Cup. That's the problem. So while they're all professionals and then they're going to listen to him as a 10, are they going to listen to him as an experienced player, who's been there and done it and can speak from experience rather than kind of theoretical, you should be here or you should be there or you should be doing this or you should be doing that?
I wouldn't worry about people listening to him. I just don't think he's necessarily been blooded as much as you'd hope to someone to marshal England to World Cup victory.
Yeah.
And this guy, Chris, thanks for the thing. And it's a really fair point. He's saying that he's booking his tickets to the World Cup final in Japan. So we have another believer, which is always great.
That is good.
Right. So looking at the other stuff. So I guess the big news, and we are a bit behind because this has been and gone, but is looking at that training squad that Eddie took to, I think it was Teddington, wasn't it, for a few days for...
Yeah, it was a slightly bizarre one. It was a training camp officially, but I think a big part of it was less about the physical part of training and more about, I think, the psychological and to sort of just getting the group together to discuss the future, discuss going forwards, discuss what's going to be happening between now and the World Cup and what the expectations are, and just kind of get a feel for where the players are. I mean, maybe we talked about it quite a bit about how the team just seems a bit lackluster, and maybe that's been noted, and they're sort of saying, "Look, we need to do something about this because this should be the biggest honour." Maybe it was a real kind of geeing up the guys, but there were some fairly big omissions.
Yeah, there were some big omissions. So should we start with? So initially, Eddie has put a list of not considered for selection due to injury, fitness, or other.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we've had a chat. We don't necessarily need to go through them all sort of one by one, but quite a few of them have either just come back from injury, are still slightly nursing an injury. So it makes sense that they're not necessarily involved. The one that didn't seem to have sort of fit into that category yet was put on that list was Danny Care.
Yeah, that was a bizarre one. Danny Care was fit for South Africa and not selected. I believe when it first happened, Eddie kind of said, fitness isn't quite where it needs to be. You just need to work on a few things. Going to rest you. And it was sort of palmed off as a little bit of a, to have a break this summer and come back fresh next year. Danny Care, by all accounts, wasn't overly happy about that. In terms of, he really wanted to play, so he was disappointed. But yeah, I'd always assumed that he would just come straight back in after the tour. So I was surprised to see him omitted again because he's definitely still fit.
Yeah, he's still fit, but maybe that's it. Maybe Eddie's sort of saying, and we're speculating, maybe he's saying, look, you've had a good pre-season, stick it out, get that going, and we'll take it from there. Because I wonder, this training squad, I just wonder how much weight we should put behind this squad. I'm just not convinced. I mean, there's a few, looking at the back, so there's a few I love. I love the fact Chris Ashton is back involved.
Yep.
I really like that. I love the fact Danny Cipriani is back in there. I mean, it would have been ridiculous if he wasn't. But there's a few. So there's Gabriel Ibatoya for Quins.
Yep.
There's Jordan Olawafela for Leicester Tigers. I apologise, guys, if I'm pronouncing the names wrong. But I mean, Gabriel Ibatoya, I know I saw him a couple of. When I say saw him, I've seen clips of him. He looks good. He looks like he could be a threat, but he's a winger. I don't think that there's a reality of him actually being involved.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. Can you look past Johnny May at the moment? No.
Can you look past Johnny May, Chris Ashton, and then when you've got the others back, you've got the Watsons, you've got the Jack Knowles, you've got Elliot Daly's, you've even got Mike Brown, who's looking at the wing. Yeah, I can see the point if these guys maybe that there's something for the future. Should there be injuries? Should you have an amazing season?
Yeah,
but you've also got in that.
I was going to say it's probably important to point out this is a 44-man squad, and he's never going to select 44 men, whether it's for the World Cup or the Autumn International. I think the Autumn International squad will be 36, 33, something like that.
But it'd probably be nearer 34, yeah.
So there's 10. There's a good 10 guys here who are not going beyond having a bit of a training session now, and possibly won't even be involved in the September training camp because he probably will drop the numbers down a bit. I don't know how exactly they're going to do it, but so yeah, I suspect for a lot of the young guys who, like you're saying, we can't really see a place for them despite them being good. I suspect we might find that they're there just to kind of have that experience of being around the team.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what's very much in mind. Because there are a lot.
Yeah, go on.
So I was going to say there are a lot of links. So on top of that, and like we were saying, you've got Ashton, you've got Johnny May, you've got the guys injured who'll be back soon, but you've also got Joe Cocknessing, Nathan Earl in there as well. So there are a lot of wings involved in that squad.
Yeah. So unless you're going to try something crazy and play a whole back line of wingers, which he's not going to do.
Sevens.
Yeah, it's a slightly bizarre one. So two things, just quickly before I go on to it though. Just with the exclusions, I agree. Let's not go through and list them all. But actually, for anyone who doesn't know this, the likes of Jonathan Joseph and Jack Knoll, who are not included, but as far as we're aware are fit, they've just come back from injury. So they might be fit enough to be involved with their clubs. Eddie Jones, by all accounts, is saying go and get kind of international level match fit. Brad Shields, people saying, Brad Shields immediately dropped after one performance in South Africa. Not sure that's the case. His contract with the Hurricanes committed him to staying with until the end of the season, but they allowed him to go on the England tour to South Africa. So when he got back from South Africa, he went straight back to New Zealand to finish up his contract over there. So I'm pretty sure he wasn't involved in the training camp because he had club duties in New Zealand. So I'm sure we'll see him in September. Manu Tuolangi, he obviously endless injuries, most recent of which was knee surgery, but he's doing he was in pre-season. They expect he'll be back probably by the beginning of September. He'll obviously then need to go and get fit and not get injured again. But I'm pretty sure that Eddie Jones still has an eye firmly on a Manu Tuolangi centre role. So watch this space on that one because that's both you and I want that, and I think we will see it as long as he can stay fit.
Oh my God! If we could have Manu and Billy back firing on all cylinders on top form, yeah. I would literally.
Well, speaking of Billy, I haven't actually found anything about his injury status, but I believe he was due back for the beginning of the season-ish. So if he's not back in training already, I think it's meant to be quite soon. So I'm sure, again, come the September training camp, he may well be involved. We shall see. And Anthony Watson was the last one, because you actually said you read something to suggest that what was initially suggested to be a six months out, which would have had him back mid-September. You think it's been extended? You think it's worse than they thought? I
could be bullshitting.
That's okay.
I thought, I'm sure I heard that somewhere, but I haven't seen anything else since. So I think what's his face, don't quote me on that, but I'm positive I read or heard somewhere that actually he's not now likely to be back till nearer sort of Christmas, New Year time.
Okay,
but
fine.
like I say, that I could
Possibly
be
for the Six Nations if he hasn't lost his shirt.
possibly then is when he's looking to be back. But again, that could just be me thinking I've heard something and imagining it in my head. But
It's fine. Some of the best news reporting's done that way.
yeah, exactly.
By
Exactly.
us.
That's the best way to go about it.
So guys, there's a few names that perhaps you were thinking, well, hang on, what about this guy and what about that guy? That as far as we can tell, there's some explanations for you there.
Why have we still got no Don Armand?
Dan,
Talk to me, Andy.
I don't
Let
know
me
what
know.
I don't know what to tell you. I think you need to reach out to the man himself, Eddie. That is not Don Armand, and find out what's going on, because we've given Eddie every opportunity. We've given him the benefit of the doubt, left, right, and centre. And actually, that brings me on to the point I wanted to make about a couple of the inclusions. So, Dan Robson and Ben Spencer, both scrum halves, both went on tour to South Africa. Both were at the training camp a few weeks ago. You and I had a fairly in-depth discussion about this during the tour, where we said, firstly, you I think were saying, why the hell is Dan Robson not being given any game time? He's out there, he's on tour, he's not being included, he's not even on the bench. Ben Spencer kept getting put on the bench. Dan Robson, nowhere to be seen. And we kind of came up with this theory in order to give Eddie the benefit of the doubt. We said, well, that maybe, despite how good he is in the Premiership, maybe he's just not gelling with the team right, and so he's not been included. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Well, clearly that's not the case, because he's included him again. But I think that then has to take us back to what we were saying before, which is, why the hell was he not used at all in South Africa?
Yeah, I love the way we come up with theories with absolute no sort of basis to come up with those theories, but I still like the fact we do that. But yeah, I'm with you. Dan Robson seems as if he could. When I watch him play for Wasps, and when he's on fire, there is no part of me that doubts he wouldn't be able to handle it at international level. I'm not saying Ben Spencer can't, but if he's involved, give him a shot. Let's see what he's got. It's not as if Ben Youngs was smashing it out in South Africa. I mean, that may be made harder because we're on the back foot, like maybe because he was against and being compared to Faf de Klerk, who was absolutely world class.
But I agree. I think that's kind of irrelevant, because the point is that you're taking this guy on tour, and I'm a big advocate of not playing everyone just for the sake of playing everyone. If you have play your best team or your best sort of 23. But I kind of think if you're going to take him on tour, and he's been a bit of a shining light in the Premiership, and then you choose not to use him at all, how do you then justify keeping him involved? Like, I don't understand. You haven't seen him in an England shirt. You chose not to use him in an England shirt, but you want to keep him around. Why?
Maybe Eddie's doing what we're doing and playing hard to get.
Maybe Dan Robson is his secret weapon.
It could be just World Cup final. Everyone will be like, Dan Robson, first cap. What's going on here?
Yeah, man of the match, man of the tournament.
Yeah,
golden boot equivalent. I don't know what they call it in rugby. Okay,
golden boots. Yeah.
So what is going? Like, I'm not unhappy about it, but he's clearly got a bit of a plan, because he's also brought back some of the old guard. Hartley, glad to see him back. I think he's needed. I think we need his captaincy. We've talked about that a lot. We won't go into it again. But he's back from injury. We were concerned you were concerned that might be the end of his career. Clearly it's not. He's back in. James Haskell also gets the call up. We've always been big fans of James Haskell. He's back in.
I'm happy with any squad that Haskell's involved in.
Do we think Eddie Jones sees James Haskell as a genuine possible World Cup test player? Or do we think it's more an experience thing? And that's not me saying that I think one way or the other. That's just me posing the question for the purposes of giving us something to talk about on the pod.
Nice. I think the thing about James Haskell for me is I think he's got the best attitude out there. He's staying there. He's going to Northampton. James Haskell will always fight for his spot. I mean, he's not everyone's cup of tea. As it happens, you and I both love the guy, but he will always give it his all. And I think James
great
Haskell
tourist.
Can still... What's that?
And a great tourist.
Great tourist. The Archbishop of Banterbury. But he I think James Haskell can still play at that level, and I think he can still add massive value at that level. Like I say, any team with James Haskell involved, any squad with James Haskell involved, I'm happy with. Is he the best? Is he going to be the best player? I don't know. There arguably are people who are playing slightly better rugby at the moment. There arguably are people who might suit Eddie Jones' style a bit more. But if James Haskell is there or thereabouts, I think he will give it his all. And if he's involved, you're going to get a performance from him. And as we saw in Australia a couple of years back, those performances can sometimes be absolutely epic.
Game changers.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. There hasn't been a huge amount of feedback following the training camp. I think the one in September is the big one, because I think that's going to be much more focused on what we expect to see for the autumn internationals. But as I say, there wasn't a lot of playing rugby at this camp, as far as I can tell. It was more a sort of a psychological exercise just to get everyone together. So I don't know which way he's going to be swinging. I suspect a lot of those names that we've looked at
that's a weird way to phrase it. But go on.
What? Which way he's swinging?
Yeah.
Get your mind out the gutter.
Carry on, please, sir.
Just because you do stuff like that at the weekend doesn't mean that Eddie does.
You've got to keep yourself busy.
Okay, moving on. I don't know which way he's going to go, but I suspect a lot of the names that we've mentioned, the kind of the young blood, the new names and things that are coming in. It's almost like he's kind of has a handful of guys that he's never going to include. What did he call them before? Apprentices. Apprentice players.
Yeah, he's called. Yeah, he hasn't named any of his apprentice players.
No, he hasn't. But I wonder if that's because someone told him. Yeah, I wonder if someone said to him, "You can't do that. It's bent."
Stop mugging us off. Yeah, stop being. But so the one that surprises me in the forwards, and this guy's a good player. Firstly, I didn't realise he was English. I thought he was South African, but it's Michael Rhodes for Saracens. So I know he's South African with respect to, I mean, he's clearly got an English connection and is eligible to play for England, but he's 30 years old, plays Saracens, and does a good job for them, and has played well. Why he's now suddenly part of the squad, I'm not entirely sure. I don't.
Do you think Eddie just likes to throw in a couple of red herrings?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, look, I didn't see enough of Michael Rhodes last season. Maybe he had the best season ever, and his stats were absolutely outstanding. I don't know. So
maybe he just likes to chuck in a couple of people that he knows is going to get the media going, "What the hell? Who's this? What's going on?" And that way they're not focusing on everything else, and he can then. I wouldn't put it past him.
Maybe he's just mugging off South Africa. Oh, there's another guy you could call up to your squad because he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player and he's played well for Saracens. I think he's been at Saracens for about 2-3 years now. I think it was like 2015 he joined Saracens, and he's always been like a stalwart of their team. But it was never somebody whose name has been shot about like this guy must be in the squad. It's not like Don Armand, for example. Everyone's like, come on, this guy's got to be there. But he's there as a 6. I believe he plays 6. So if you're looking at a 7, you've got the likes of Underhill there. You've got the likes of Tom Curry, Mark Wilson. And then you're looking at 6. You've got Rob Shaw, Haskell, I guess you're looking at as a 6. Rose. It's got Brad Shields. You've got quite an old school. You've got quite an old school sort of group of 6s there, which I'm not saying is a bad thing.
No.
But
it's very difficult to predict what he's doing, isn't it? This is what I've sort of learned from doing this pod. Since Eddie Jones has taken over, we thought we had it all figured out, and every time you think you've got it figured out with Eddie Jones, he throws something new in the mix, and you think, what? And frustratingly, often that thing that he's throwing in is actually something he's taking out, and you're going, why on earth why is Don Armand not involved? Why is Alex Good, or as you like to call him, Alex Good, or as he perhaps likes to be called?
I believe he likes to be called that.
Well, then maybe he should take the E off the end of his name.
I don't think he gets the discretion to do that.
Yeah, you can go and change your name.
Well, okay, he could go and change his
Yeah.
name, but
Well,
I think
so you heard it here first. He officially should change his name if he wants to be Alex Good,
okay, cool.
or I can call you Dan Wood.
I would like that.
Okay, well, let's do that from now on. Okay, well let's move on from this training squad because we've left this so long that actually we're midway through August, so the next training camp's happening in a couple of weeks, which is probably when we'll bring out our next episode because we've got a fair bit going on between now and then. So what else? There's been a bit of chat about from the RFU, isn't there? There's all this. I mean, I don't want to go into too much because I think, to be honest, it's just boring. But suddenly we're hearing that the RFU is struggling financially and they're having to make redundancies left, right, and centre. And woe is rugby, and all. You know, what do you make of all this?
So I believe they've reduced their staff from around 570 members of staff to around 500. Now, From what I understand, none of these redundancies or none of any financial thing is going to affect Eddie Jones and the elite squad. So firstly, that's great. Secondly, I don't really understand why this happened. You know, it wasn't that long ago with the richest union in the world, we're making £400 million a year or profit or whatever, pre-tax profit or whatever it was. And now suddenly we're in financial disarray. I know there's been a lot of sort of noise about it because I believe it was one of the ex-chairmen who was coming to look at it, but he hasn't been involved for however many years.
10 years maybe or ridiculous, isn't it? Or since 2010, 8 years.
Maybe doesn't really understand what the current setup is. But I actually have the solution to this anyway. Okay. So it's all irrelevant. So go on the RFU website and all the writing on it is in a light grey. You can't even read the bloody thing without going in. If they wrote in black, they'd get 10 times the amount of traffic. They could get 10 times the amount of advertising. There's your revenue made up. Job done.
And we only want 10%.
Yeah, mate, 10%. Yeah, that's all we ask for. Just 10%. All you need to do is change it to black rather than grey. Even now, I've got that training squad up, and I literally have to lean into it. I've got pretty good eyesight. Well, I don't know why I'm having to fight to have to read an article on the RFU website.
There you go. Let's hope someone from the RFU is listening and does something about it. And if they do, we will definitely be talking about it. And tweeting about it and emailing about it and everything else. Okay, what else? So we're gonna assume that everything's fine, and that once they change the colour of the font on the website, problem solved, and we can focus back on the rugby again.
Well, yeah, revenue doubles, everything's fine, etc., etc. So one thing I actually wanted to bring up, and again I may get the guy's name wrong, and this is something that sort of bugged me the other day. So there's a player, I believe his name's Tom Brady. He played for Leicester, and he got released by Leicester, and he was doing a trial at Sale Sharks, and he was playing for Sale Jets, which is their second team equivalent in a friendly, sort of pre-season friendly. And he was saying, and this is absolutely disgusting, but during the match, there was some fan who was giving his sort of wife, and I believe his kids were there as well, and was being quite abusive to them about him, and was being quite rude. Now, firstly, if you're that fan, you're an absolute dickhead. Don't ever go to a rugby match again. In actual fact, just go and lock yourself away because you're a prick. But is this starting to creep into rugby more and more? Because you heard about like the fans abusing Mike Brown and Joe Marler, like the Scottish guys who had a bit of a go at Eddie Jones, who have now
been prosecuted, fined, but yeah, they were prosecuted, so they did.
Yeah, I mean, let's not overplay it. They probably didn't deserve any hard time because
I don't know. It's Eddie Jones,
but yeah, still. But is this something creeping into rugby more, or are we just hearing about it more because of the nature of
social media,
like accessibility? And,
probably a little bit of both. It probably is creeping in a little bit more. The game is becoming much more accessible, not just the news, but more and more people are getting into it. It's we're building up to a World Cup, so there's a lot more chatter. It was a second team, so it's probably it's not quite as professional a sport at that level, which probably has a bit of an impact.
Surely it's more diehard fans who'd be there. People who want to watch for rugby more who'd be there, rather than somebody just there to.
And I know what you mean. I mean, I think there's always going to be one, isn't there? And it probably is more. I still wouldn't go to a rugby match thinking, "Oh, I hope I'm not one of the unlucky ones that ends up in a part of the stadium where everyone's hurling abuse," because I don't think that would happen anywhere in the stadium.
I agree with that.
I think it probably is happening a little bit more with accessibility and people finding out more about rugby, and also the price of tickets. You can go to a major sporting event, rugby, and it's a lot cheaper than going to one if it's football, for example. But
you say that.
I know
the rugby
still.
tickets are getting really expensive. I believe now a Twickenham ticket is over £100.
Yeah. Well, so
maybe
that puts that argument to bed. Then it's not that one. I don't know. It's. I'm hoping it's just we happen to be hearing about the knobheads that are acting this way, and it's not creeping in. But yeah, hard to know. I'm not too worried yet.
No, I'm not yet. But
it's certainly not the sort of the posh public school elite sport that it used to be, and that's a good thing. But with that, probably it does mean that it's not just a bunch of toffs on the sideline either.
Yeah, and I get that, but this guy, sort of, and let me just check. I'm looking it up. I believe the guy's name is Tom Brady. He made a good point actually, which I like. He wonders whether this guy would have been, such a hero if it had been his dad and uncles who were sitting there rather than his wife.
Kids, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. His hero. Yeah. So the guy's name. Yeah, his family were verbally abused on the sidelines. His wife and mother.
Wow.
I mean, that's absolutely pathetic. And you've got to feel for the guy. The guy's playing. The guy's really playing and looking to sort of make a name.
Do we know what it is he supposedly has done to warrant the abuse? Was it some incident or?
I don't know if it was just something that happened during the game, but also, I mean, with all due respect to the guy, I mean, the guy's a good player, but at the moment he's unattached. So I'm surprised that somebody necessarily knows who his wife and mum are.
Yeah.
But he said both were very upset by the conversation, which is fully understandable. Completely understandable, and it's pathetic. And I feel for the guy because the guy's just out there trying to play some rugby, trying to get his next contract, and then you've got some absolute dickhead like hurling abuse at his wife and mother, and I just didn't like it, mate. It didn't sit well.
No, fair enough. I don't think that anyone should like it. It should never sit well. But yeah, hopefully the positive fans and the ones that enjoy the game the way it's supposed to be enjoyed will always outnumber these kinds of people, and the game can continue to be accessible to everyone, because that's what's so great about it.
Yeah, so if you are that fan who did that, please write into us so we can then tell you to go fight yourself and not respond to you. But it's but either way, let's move on from that. Let's move on to the positive. So the season's coming up.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a brilliant season ahead, mate. Like, obviously it's the sort of World Cup season as such.
Yes.
There's going to be some interesting things. But the thing I'm most looking forward to is seeing Cipriani at 10 at Gloucester. There's something about this Gloucester team this year that I think could have a really good season. And if they have a good season, and Cipriani,
and James Haskell's there as well, right?
No, Haskell's at Northampton.
Of course he is.
Yeah, so he's at Northampton, but they've got Dan Bigger there, so that's another one. So, if Gloucester could have a really good season, really positive season, playing well, Cipriani on fire, getting his confidence up. He doesn't strike me as somebody who needs to have, who necessarily needs that huge boost to always put in a performance. But if that happens, he could be a dangerous player. And I'm quite excited about that. And also, like you say, Haskell at Northampton. Dan Bigger there. If Northampton need to do a lot better than they did last year, and if they do,
we want to see some good things from Courtney Laws. We want him back. I feel like he was missed.
Yes,
he was right just when he was starting to just fire as well, and the injury meant that we missed out on that in South Africa. So I want to see big things from him, and I think Hartley as well. It'd be nice just to see him get the media off his back. Now that he's sort of almost like we're now calling for him, where before the tour everyone was saying Hartley's past it, he's over the hill, get rid of him. I feel like now everyone's going, we need Hartley back because we need a captain.
Yeah,
and so hopefully with the media behind him, he can put in some performances and get back to winning ways. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good season. There's some good international rugby. Hopefully England get back into winning ways, and who knows, a special performance in the autumn could see opinions change across throughout the world if we can get the one in particular right. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do, and I'm still confident. I still think, particularly with these guys who are all sort of excluded because of fitness but are now back playing again. If we can pick our team from our genuine full strength side, it's going to be very interesting to see what England can do again. And I think we'll see England of old, as in beginning of Eddie Jones's tenure. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's a tough autumn. It is a tough autumn because you've got South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand,
and Japan.
The Japan one, we have to win the Japan one, and I'm sure we will.
Yeah, but I think respect them both because we're going over there for the World Cup, and we want to be their second team at the World Cup.
Yeah,
because it's always a bonus, and I think with Eddie Jones, at our helm, that's a bonus for us. And any nation at the home World Cup, apart from England, apparently, have the advantage. Have the home advantage. If we can get a bit of a sort of makeshift home advantage from the Japanese, that'd be awesome. So I think show them respect. Yes. Put out a full strength side against them. Don't treat it as a second team game. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be a good one because there's less than 3 weeks till the Premiership starts again.
Looking forward to it, guys. Yeah. Thanks for joining us again, as always, and particularly given that particularly as we're a little low on reviews. Get over to iTunes, drop us a review, let us know what you think, let us know what you want us to talk about. You can email us. What are we? We're englandrugbypod@gmail.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook @englandrugbypod. Just spread the word, spread the love. We're always looking for new listeners, and stay in touch, get involved.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.